Yeah, greetings and revolutionary greetings to all of you, comrades. It's a pleasure once again for you to join us in this our usual session. It's becoming a tradition. This is Conscious and Study Group, which is actually the philosophical and ideological study grouping that is purely dedicated to the study of philosophy and ideology for decolonization of Africa, written by Kwame Nkrumah himself. This book is actually the blueprint for that philosophy and ideology. And as a study group, we are strong believers on consciousism. Some of them call themselves Nkrumaists, but actually the philosophy and ideology is consciousism. We have dedicated our time for the last many years as possible. It started physical. I don't know if Sister Marsha, did you join the meetings when the CSG started in London some times back? But the meeting had been going on physically, where also comrades in London could be meeting to discuss and read this book. But we have moved virtually for the last almost 4 to 5 years, and we've been studying this book. Now, in the previous readings and sessions, which have now lasted for almost 2 years, we started looking at this book from the introduction. And from the introduction, Nkrumah introduced us to the impact of education to various African identities and personalities, what he refers majorly as colonial students. So Nkrumah tried to explain to us how the students got to universities and education, some as a privilege, some as a right, and some either through other means. And you know how Nkrumah struggled to get his education, and even when he went to America and even he stayed in London, and why he was pursuing that education. So Nkrumah introduced us to those categories of colonial students to show us the impact of education on various personalities or various Pan-Africans. Then we went to chapter 1, which actually deal with the philosophy in retrospect, where Nkrumah discussed a bit about the key now philosophical questions. And for those of us who have interacted with this, we've several times asked ourselves the simple definition of philosophy, which is the best definition existing, is the love of knowledge. But we question much. So Nkrumah tried to question the universe. How did the universe come to be? What is the universe made of? So that is what formed the chapter 1 in what we call philosophy in retrospect. Then from there, Nkrumah analyzed the all elements on the forces that are moving the universe to the extent of whether are they spiritual forces or is it a natural force that move the universe. Then Nkrumah concludes that our universe is a natural universe. This is basic law being matter. So we look at various introduction of various philosophy at that particular moment. So introduction to things like idealism and materialism, which then become key main philosophies at that particular moment. Now, one thing we need to recognize is that at that particular chapter 1, we are now being introduced to two opposing philosophies or contrasting philosophy or competing philosophies, those who are materialists and those who are idealists. But Nkrumah analyzes each of these elements. And then Nkrumah says that our universe, as I've said, is a natural universe. But Nkrumah says that matter, because now the competition between the matter and spirits and ideas, Nkrumah says that matter is not the only reality. So it doesn't take the far-right materialist position that it's only matter that exists. He says that matter is not the sole reality, but it is just the primary reality. And the element of primary reality means that then the secondary and other things. And Nkrumah tries to explain how ideas or idealism and spirits is part of matter, but in another different category. So what you call categorical conversion. And that's the biggest debate today, where people argue whether we are spiritual or we are physical. But when you talk of matter, you can talk of it not only in physical state. It can be in gaseous state, it can be in spirit state, it can be in mind state, it can be thinking state, it can be in an idea state. That's still matter. Then Nkrumah take us now to chapter 2. So you must know that consciousism is not advocating for materialism or matter at the expense of spirits and ideas. Consciousism then accepts that yes, matter exists as a primary and spirits are part of the matter. That's why it's called a primary reality. Now we go to philosophy and society, and Nkrumah explains so many things. He takes us now to Aristotle, the Plato, and how different philosophies in terms of idealism or materialism were playing in different societies. Take us to the Greek society, the Anaximanders, the Thales, the Barclays, the Socrates, the Plato, and all those are the Aristotle's philosophers. And Nkrumah at this chapter 2 is trying to bring some elements that all human beings are equal. From the fact that they come from the same matter, then they are all equal, irrespective of their physical or functional differences, which those who believe in idealism a bit could come now with what you call classism or class struggle in a society, the different classes in a society. Nkrumah tried to oppose that we might only have functional or physical differences as one being either a woman, a man, a child, an elderly, disabled or able, of any skin pigmentation, you want to call it, but the fundamental intrinsic worthiness of human being is equal. So there's no lesser being. We are all human beings. And the fact that one is like in those periods, like one is a slave boy, and he used the example of the slave boy in the book written by Plato, the Meno, and how Socrates is trying to prove that this slave boy could be able to function or solve problems that were complex in a society if he was given chance to do so. So then Nkrumah brings an element of egalitarianism vis-a-vis individualism and equality of beings in terms of their intrinsic worth, irrespective of their differences in terms of physical and biological differences. So that's what Nkrumah is trying to prove in the society, that we are all equal. And we are in egalitarian society, and we then embrace more of communal aspect rather than individualism. Then now Nkrumah takes us to this chapter 3 where we are looking at society and ideology. And we've looked at various elements at the introduction. And for the particular time, Nkrumah is now concentrating on some subtle instrument of ideology. How ideology of a society, and he talks about the dominant segment in a society. But Nkrumah tried to prove to us that there are some silent ways on how ideology is passed in a society. Now, Nkrumah started us with taking us through how history was a silent instrument to pass some ideology in a society. And he talks about how history of Africa was written wrongly. And he says that the history of Africa and African Renaissance must be written again. And the experience with Europe must only be an event in our history, but not that the African originate from the history of European about Africa. Nkrumah then has taken us to the second element or the second subtle instrument of ideology, that was arts. And he has shown us how arts, he took the example of those teddy boys and how art has been used in terms of religion and every other thing, drawing and painting, all those elements. We have looked at Europe, Africa, and Soviet. And then Nkrumah now introduced us to philosophy as a third instrument, subtle instrument for ideology. And we have looked at it now, we've gone even to the extent of starting to look now ethics and morality. And therefore, this class where we are in continuation of philosophy as a subtle instrument of ideology, where we are now looking at various elements on actually morality or morals of a society. And this will just continue as we move along. So as our tradition, we only read one chapter, one paragraph or two in maximum and share our thoughts. Once you're done with the reading, we ask you, what do you think? We ask you to critically examine the text and share your thought process. So I hope that brief history, it's been taking long time for you. I've taken much of your time, but I hope it's helpful for some of us who join us in between to understand where we've come from and the trajectory of the conversation to where we are today. So once again, thank you and feel most welcome. Permit me to recognize the presence of all of you, Sister Amma, Brother Benny, Sister Anita, Brother Mauli. We have Brother Coco with us, and we have also Sister Masha join us, and also Sister Kamo. My name is Brother Pidgin Odimwengu from Kenya, and I am the coordinator, one of the coordinator for Consciousness Study Group. Thank you very much and feel most welcome. Now, having spent my time reading and speaking too much, allow me now to ask, as per our tradition, if there's any member who is in a position to read for us the highlighted paragraph. Then we seek definition of terms. If there are terms that are of question, then now we start sharing our thoughts. So is there any member who is willing to read for us the paragraph?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Philosophers, grappling with the question of the source of moral obligation, have attempted different sorts of answer. Many have given their answer in terms of the individual psychology, in terms of the pleasure or the pain which certain courses of action entail on their perpetrators. Here, these philosophers have tried to anchor more obligation in something in regard to which the question why would, they hoped, be impossible. They accordingly expected that the question why one likes pleasant things and dislikes painful ones could not be sensibly asked. If, therefore, moral obligation could be founded on pleasure and pain in such a way that morality raised expectations of pleasure and immorality raised expectations of pain, a final answer would be
Sister
procured.
Angida, can you slow down a little bit?
Sure.
Thank
So
you.
I'll go back to if if therefore moral obligation could be founded on pleasure and pain in such a way that morality raised expectations of pleasure and immorality raised expectations of pain, a final answer would be procured to the question why one should be moral. But this account relates to the individual welfare and not the social.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister Kamo. And the greetings,
Mhm.
Brother Kwame. Over to you.
What a beautiful voice. Not only beautiful, but soothing. Ah,
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank
soothing
you.
and beautiful voice.
Thank you.
Brother Pigeon, please carry on. Thank you.
I wanted to hand over the chairship to you, but it's okay. Can I proceed?
Yes, proceed. I shall contribute as we go along. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, comrades. Sister Kama, thank you for reading for us the text. And I believe we actually appreciate your reading, and we wish to have more reading from you or other members who are open enough to do this. Now, members, I believe you take some time to look at this text, maybe a minute or two, if you haven't, but I always attach it with our invitation, so I hope also you got time to read it. But permit me to reread it, but slowly now, as you try to identify some of your points or issues you might want to share your thoughts on. Then once I'm done, I'm also giving Sister Kamo time aware as well to also now listen or interact with the text as well. Because now, when you read, sometimes it doesn't mean you're in the text as well. So I'll be reading it a bit slowly, but at least to give you time to form your thought process. As I've said, this is a continuation of our previous reading on morality and especially philosophy as a subtle instrument of ideology. So let me read it again. Nkrumah says, philosophers grappling with the question of the source of moral obligation have attempted different sorts of answer. Now, many have given their answer in terms of the individual psychology. in terms of the pleasure or the pain which certain courses of action entail for their perpetrators. Now, here, these philosophers have tried to anchor moral obligation in something, in regard to which the question, why would they hope the impossible? Now, they accordingly expected that the question why one likes pleasant things and dislike painful ones could not be sensibly asked. If, therefore, moral obligation could be founded on pleasure and pain in such a way that morality raised expectations of pleasure and immorality raised expectations of pain, a final answer will be procured. The question why one should be moral, But this account relates to the individual welfare and not the social one. Kwame, back to you.
Thank you, Brother Pigeon. Brothers and sisters, so we are continuing reading this chapter, which is the relationship between society and ideology. And we have heard two beautiful voices reading for us slowly. So as they read, we process what it is they are reading. And the hope is that by the time they reach the end of the reading, we would be in a position to share our thinking. As I came in slightly later, I'm sure Brother Pigeon has already welcomed you all. Sister Amar, Brother Coco, Sister Marcia, Sister Kakanita, Sister Njadika, Brother Benny, Brother Mavuli, Brother Pigeon himself, and myself. So welcome once again. And so by the time we get to the end of the passage that we are reading, you would be in a position to share your thinking on what it is that we have read. So what we normally do is we go around and ask everyone to share their thinking, and I shall be doing so shortly. However, if you feel you're not ready to speak yet, to share your thinking, you can ask for us to pass, and then we'll come back to you later once you feel that you're in a position to share your thinking. You are free to share your opinion alongside your thinking, but remember that opinions are more challengeable than your thinking. So we encourage you to share your thinking for different reasons. One of the key reasons why we encourage you to share your thinking is that the challenge that we face as Africans is the freedom to think and think outside the box into which we have been placed by our educational systems. And conscientism is a window for us to escape that conditioned thinking and begin to think in a way that advances us, by which I mean that in our thinking with respect to constantism, the overarching strategic goal are the contents of the African Revolution. And the African Revolution, as you know, it started a long time ago. Some would argue from 1901 in the US, and then came to Manchester in 1945, and then it traveled to Accra in 1958, where it has been evolving. And the content of that strategic goal is the total liberation, unification, and the development of Africa. Now, if we are to take control of our continent, that means we need thinkers. We need thinkers whose thinking in itself is radical and revolutionary. By radical, I mean it goes to the root of what it is we are thinking about. And by revolutionary, I mean that it is transformative. For we believe as progressive Pan-Africanists that what we need is a transformed Africa. And a transformed Africa, to put it simply, is a united Africa that is totally liberated and that is developing. And when we say it's developing, we don't mean that a few individuals benefit from the resources of Africa or that a group benefit. We mean that and believe that the majority of Africans must benefit from our resources. In other words, the welfare of our people is for us the supreme law that guides us in terms of policy. So this chapter is helping to ground us in thinking fundamentally as to what it is, how, when it comes to morality, we view the world in which we live, and we view the world in terms of what it is as we Africans must do. So, we've read what philosophers have been grappling with. We also know that we have our own African philosophers on the continent, some of whom have passed away, some of whom are still alive. And they have also given thought to these moral questions. So we are hoping that you can share your thinking on what we have read. So as I said, we go around and then we ask you to share your thinking, and you are free to pass. What we say is that be free to share whatever it is your thinking is, to the extent that you are free to challenge what it is we are reading. So feel free to challenge the text, but be mindful that you are also then in a challengeable position, because you need to convince us through your thinking that what you think is the correct thinking, because you can't tell us that 2 + 2 is 1 and expect us to accept that. So we're going to go around and share our thinking. We like to go hear a male voice and a female voice, a male voice and a female voice, or we can start with the female voice and the male voice, and that way. So, right, who is going to start for us? So, with what philosophers have been grappling with. What is the source of moral obligation? Where does moral obligation come from? And what answers have been given? And in terms of what have in other words, if Africa is to act morally, even in terms of its resources, to defend its resources, it must act. What will be the source of that moral obligation? Do Africans have the moral obligation to act in terms of how our resources have been looted? And if we have, what is the source of that moral obligation? Because clearly some of our people do not think they have a moral obligation to act to protect Africans. They think that it's okay for them to work with the looters to continue to loot our resources. So, but Benny has his hand up, so I take it he would like to start the sharing.
Yeah.
us. Is that correct, Brother Benny? In which
Yeah,
case,
I will come in later, but I want to ask you a
what do you
question.
mean?
You can
Hold
clarify.
on. What do you mean you come in later? You are in now. Share your thinking.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
you
Brother Benny,
clarify
go on.
the,
Yeah.
okay, let me go
No,
on.
it's okay. It's okay. You can come in later. What did you want to ask? It's okay.
If you can clarify the moral, because you see the question you put,
Uh-huh.
and if we look at moral, I
Okay.
mean, you haven't. I don't think you have done justice to the moral, because I don't know whether it is left or east or north
Okay.
or south.
Good question.
Uh-huh.
A good question. So let's, in other words, what that Benny is saying is, why don't we clarify some of the terminologies, which we have done in the past, and then we'll proceed from there. Why are you going backwards, Brother Pigeon?
What Brother Ben is saying is actually what we covered in the past, and I think that reference was very important for you.
It's fine. So no, stay there, stay back there. Brother Pigeon, go back there. So draw our attention to the answer, Brother Pigeon. Thank you. So the question is, what is moral obligation? That's what Brother Ben is asking. He's asking also if there are any other terminologies that we need to expand on. Let's do so before we start sharing our thinking. So, Brother Pigeon, you are saying what?
Yeah.
That.
Initially, we are defining what is moral.
Mm-hmm.
And the element was good. What is good? But then in the previous reading, we came across a word called moral principle and moral judgment. And today, now we are coming through a word called moral obligation.
Yeah. So what is moral obligation? That's what Brother Benny is asking. So can we say, based on what we discussed last week and what we are reading on the screen that you've put before us, that is to do with ethics, and that as ethics philosophy proposes throw light on the nature of moral principles and moral judgments, and it seeks to expose the source of the validity of ethical principle and so of moral obligation. So what is moral obligation? Okay, in ethics, we have an instrument of great fascination, which runs parallel to statutory instruments without itself being statutory. The moral laws were never passed. There are no policemen or courts to ensure adherence to them. So moral obligation is what we are obliged to do. It's like a responsibility on one's part to act in a particular way. And the way in which you are asked to act is decided by the community to which you belong. And those, if you like, principles, for example, you don't kill people, and so on. Those principles were there before you were born into that community. Before your parents give birth to you, those principles were there. And before even they were born, the principles were there. And then if you go further to human society itself, before human society appeared on this planet, the universe itself had its own rules, and so on and so forth. And so, but then the problem then is when you have different communities from different contexts, all coming up with different rules, where one thinks that it's good to bury your dead in the soil, and another group, all belong to the human society. Another group believes that, or has come to believe that, it's not good to bury your dead in the soil and for worms to eat them. It's better to burn them, as the Indians believed and the Greeks believed in the previous position. Then there's a conflict. Which of those obligations are right and which ones are wrong? And so then we come to understand that there is no, as it were, right and wrong when it comes to certain obligations. But then when you push it further, we then come to understand that there must be some obligations that are universal, that it applies to all human societies. Some may differ depending on history, context, and so on, but then there must be certain or a moral principle that applies. Doesn't matter where you are on this planet. And so we see that morality morality in itself can be contested, and the study of this subject called ethics, it's its job to explain these things and throw light on them, and so on and so forth. So, Brother Benny, I hope I have done justice to your question. What is moral obligation? So it is what you are required, how you are required to act in terms of the community in which you belong, and those requirements were there before you became a member of that community through birth into that community, and so there is that, and then there is also the obligations that are rooted in statutory law. The statutory law, as this paragraph explains, are the laws that come from a parliament. A parliament is basically the community sitting down and passing laws and say, this is how this must be done, this is how that must be. Those are statutory laws. And so apart from the obligations that are not passed in law, there are also ones that are passed in law. Some have called the previous one the common law, and to distinguish it from the written ones, because those ones are not written anywhere. It just takes a look from your mother, and then you know how to behave. Or it just takes how your father looks in your direction, and then you know how to behave if you are misbehaving, and so on. And those are not written anywhere in law, but they are also, expectations on us. So, Brother Benny, I hope that clarifies moral obligation.
Yeah, I think at least it's help, especially those who were not here last week to capture where now we want to go.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's useful, and Brother Pigeon has made it part of our practice to go back to the previous paragraph just to remind us all where we've come from. So thank you very much. I'm looking at any terminologies in there that we will need to also look at. There is individual psychology there as well, which is how the mind of an individual works. And there is also, therefore, there must be social psychology, which is how the society also thinks and how what it believes, what stories it accepts as it were. Then I'm looking also, so that's psychology. Then I'm looking also at welfare. So welfare is your state of being, and it has different aspects. Whether you are well fed, whether you live safely, whether or not you live your housing, how the state of your housing. It also includes whether you are free to pursue your beliefs, your beliefs and what it is you want in life. Whether you can achieve your potential as a human being, or whether you are shot as a target practice by an army that believes you are not a human being, or whether you are starved to death because you are a defenseless child, or whether you are shot because you are a mother, and so on and so forth. And these things are happening on our planet as we speak. So are you able to achieve your full? So those are welfare, and there is individual welfare and there's social welfare. And the state of being, the state of well-being of the individual, and then the state of well-being of society as a whole. I hope I have dealt with all the key terminologies there. If there's any you think we haven't dealt with, please draw our attention, and then we will do so. This is our space. We think how we like. We share what we like, and everybody is free to share. You don't have to apologize. You don't have to apologize for your thinking. Don't be scared to think your thoughts, and it's a safe and respectful space. We respect everyone's thinking, and everyone has the freedom to think what they want to think. So please feel free. We ask that if you want to challenge a thinking, that all we ask is be respectful. That's all. be respectful of the thinker. You may not like the thinking, but respect the thinker. And that's what we ask. Okay, so let's proceed with sharing of thoughts. Okay, so who will go first? Okay, well, I'll choose who will go first since nobody wants to go first. I'll choose a sister. I'll choose a sister. Is that okay, everyone? I'll choose a sister to speak first. Sister Amma. Is it okay for you to speak first? Sister Amma, you have tons of experience in the Pan-African field. Share your thinking with us. Thank you. Sister Amma, please don't pass. Thank you.
Brother Kwame,
Yes.
Sister Hammer has noted in the group chat that she may not be able to speak.
Okay, could be where she is. Okay, no problem. I'm listening. Okay, that's okay, Sister Amma. You're excused. But we eagerly await your sharing another time. Let me go to Sister Marcia then.
Sister Kanita hand is up. Okay, you can go to Marcia.
Sister who?
Kanita.
Okay, all right. Then Brother Pigeon, continue with that since you can see the hands.
Okay, thank you.
Let me have something to eat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Sister Kanita, please go ahead. And welcome, Sister Ida.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I guess my first question has to do with philosophers. I'm assuming that when this word philosophers are used, I'm assuming they're referring to the Greek philosophers. Is that accurate?
No, sister, it is referring to all the philosophers. Yes, Aristotle is included, but he's not the only philosopher. We have also philosophers, contemporary philosophers in the last century, people like Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, Immanuel Kant, and so on. And yeah, so it's broad, yeah, including if you like African philosophers like Professor Sophie, who has passed away. She's a Yoruba from Nigeria. So yeah, but it's broad. It's not just Greek philosophers. In any case, just before you continue, in any case, the Greek philosophers they took our philosophy, didn't they? George James has shown it. They didn't really have a philosophy. It's all African philosophy, if you like. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's as I had assumed or suspected. So I think that probably it's really referring mostly to non-African philosophers. And I make that statement because in my graduate studies, anytime the word philosophy or philosopher was used, it was 110% of the time referring to non-African philosophers. And in rare instances, Asian or Arab philosophers, and I do emphasize the word rare, but otherwise it was the European philosophers. So when I was starting my psychology studies, it was happening at the same time with my immersion, my very deep and rapid immersion into Pan-African thought. And one might imagine how there was soon to be a train wreck of sorts between what I was being exposed to at the university, the college and university, and then what the Pan-African scholars were exposing me to. And some of these scholars at the time were alive, and some still are to this day. This would be people like Theophile Obenga, Dr. Asa Hilliard, who's now an ancestor, one of the great scholars and thinkers of our time, Dr. Naeem Akbar, who is still around, Maremba Ani, and so many, many others. At any rate, the point that I'm making is that in my academic studies prior to post high school, those studies became built, the foundation of my understanding of deep thought became built from the great African thinkers, the Africans who are in America, the Africans who are on the continent, and the Africans in the Caribbean, and then the Africans throughout Oceania and Melanesia and Micronesia. And so this is what I came up on. And so I agree completely that the Greeks borrowed, used, plagiarized, and so forth their thought, their philosophy from ours. And this was one of the things that I learned early on in my journey. So when I look at this paragraph that was read by our sister and our brother, what comes to my mind is that my understanding is that morality, where African societies and culture and philosophical thought is concerned, is based more so on natural phenomena. So it would make sense that at some point Nkrumah uses physics, which of course, studies natural phenomena. It would make sense that he would borrow from some of those ideals. And it would make sense that others came from the approach of mathematics, and still others have taken other approaches, because these things come from natural phenomena. Mathematics, for instance, in the African fractals and the pattern of things. And even and we see this reflected in our textiles, we see this reflected in our hairstyles. People like Dr. Charles Finch and Dr. Richard King. Dr. King is a psychiatrist. He's now an ancestor. Dr. Charles Finch is a traditional priest and also a former surgeon. He's a retired surgeon. He's still with us. And he's an expert on the Dogon. They would argue from the standpoint of mathematics, from natural phenomena, to understand philosophy and morality and deep thought. And it would make sense, because that seems to be how we exist, and we formulate much, and some may argue all of what we do. So when I look at this paragraph, it is not the individual deduction or someone deducing, I think, therefore I am, and all of those types of things, but it is the morality that is derived from, and a person's obligation to it, that is derived from natural law. As my friend Dr. Kia Bunseki Fukiao, a great Congolese scholar, now an ancestor, who explained to me many, many years before I came to Ghana, that we hold up that which holds us up. That's my obligation. That is my act of morality, is holding up that which holds me up. So for me, when I hear this paragraph read, and I read it a few times myself, and then I read what our sister posted from Google in the back chat, and then I listened to it, not only reading it with my eyes, but audibly listening to it being read in the male and female energies. It just becomes abundantly clear to me that I think the reason why we weren't confused, and the we meaning those at those conferences and those who authored all of these books and made documentaries, the reason why we weren't confused on it was because we were aligning ourselves with natural laws. And those natural laws in many ways became our own laws. And then they became administered, if you will, by utility, that which has the greatest good. So do we choose my finger, my pinky finger, over a neighborhood? well, the neighborhood has the greatest utility than my pinky finger. So we're going to go with the neighborhood. What's best for the neighborhood over against what's best for my pinky finger. And so my understanding is that that then becomes the modality or the way that morality gets administered where a society is concerned. And so with this individualistic thinking, that became something that was increasingly foreign to me. So I don't know if everything I just expressed made sense, but when I look at this paragraph, I just sort of, my mind shifts to natural laws and what has the greatest utility for the society, as opposed to individualistic thinking and laws made, for example, in the States, the judicial system is a adversarial system. And so laws are made for, in many instances, very different reasons other than natural laws. So thank you. I'll mute my mic and I hope I didn't sound too confused.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sister. Without coming, do you want to come in?
Yes. I want to thank the sister for sharing what she shared and the great names she shared with us. If she can put those names in the chat, that will really help us also expand our thinking. What I'd like her to address as part of her sharing her thoughts is, so if the society to which I belong has greater utility than my little finger, as Immanuel Kant is famously said to have said, that he couldn't think of any reason why he should not value his little finger more than society as a whole. If we follow that trajectory, then Sister Kanita, then the challenge is, what if the person doing that thinking is not part of your society and sees your society, not you personally, but the other society, the other community, as community that occupy land or occupy or sit on some kind of resource that I or that person wants, and therefore to that extent that other society has no utility, because if they have utility, it means I must leave them alone to occupy that land and to own that land. And as you know, happened in Kenya and South Africa, Zimbabwe, it happened in the Gold Coast, all across Africa. Our rights as a community was disregarded, and our lands were stolen, and the reason is as I'm saying, kind of made clear by what you've shared. So then the question is, and this is my question to you, and I hope you share your thinking with us. So the challenge is, what if the other person doesn't see your society as having utility? What then happens? Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Sister Kanita, would you like to respond now? Will we give you time?
Well, do you guys, should I respond now or should I wait for other people to?
No,
to the
if you're ready, you can go ahead, and then I go to Brother Usu later.
Okay, I think how the response depends on the context of what's going on in that situation. If, for instance, someone comes to Ghana, someone from Sweden, and 10 people from Sweden come and they're offended by seeing a woman in an open air market breastfeeding her child with her breast out. I don't think the market has to shut down and the woman has to stop breastfeeding by virtue of the fact that these people are taken aback by her feeding her child. And it is not seen as a sexual act. And the breasts are not sexualized. And in most African cultures, the breasts are not sexualized the way they are in American and European culture. So I think it depends on the context in terms of what the response would be to the person who's objecting to what they see in African culture.
Other comment? Will I go to Brother Benny?
Yeah, carry on. She's
Okay, thank
responding.
you.
Sister
Okay,
Anita.
Thank you. Brother Benny, please come in. Then from Brother Benny, I'll be moving to Sister Marcia. And welcome, Brother Hanu. Oh, is it Sister Hanatu Green? Welcome, comrade. Brother Benny, please go ahead.
Good. Thank you. Well, Sister Kanita has said a lot of what I wanted to come in. I did enjoy these Western philosophers from Kant, Hume, Rousseau, and all those things. And it's much you deal with when, especially when you study politics. And no wonder Nkrumah has to refer to a lot of them here. Hume has actually said something that if you look at the bigger picture and you narrow it, we see that he placed reason as a slave of passion. And I think what Sister Kanita spoke about brought some of these out. The fact that reason alone don't move hearts. And we need things like values, stories, and shared emotions. I mean, how we feel, you see, to do certain things. And that's why we may, let me use this example from churches. A pastor will say that, look, come chew grass, let's do something that is unusual. And people will do this because they've been moved in a way, even though rationally it is stupid. It is nonsense, you see. So looking at this and bringing it into what Nkrumah is trying to say, pointing our attention to what we can describe as a philosophical anxiety, in a sense that these philosophers were caught, some of them, I think Sister Kanita Brakwami mentioned some of them, were caught in that Eurocentric individualism, which also they positioned the issue of pleasure and pain on an individual basis, which today continues, of course. And that is why we have the dichotomy of the North and the South. North are very narrow in terms of being highly individualistic, and therefore there are boundaries between me and you, which I need to respect it very well and make sure that I don't cross. But you come to the South, in fact, you will find that whilst they talk of this kind of philosophical anxiety, it's not within Africa, because what makes we Africans more free, which I feel like Nkrumah is trying to drive us to something that we have as better when it comes to what is right and wrong, you see. So you find that in Africa, we say that, look, how I feel and how you feel makes me also happy. You see, and it's not out of what I get that makes me happy, but we look at it in an opposite way to how the Westerners actually look at the world and also experience it in that singular way that normally we find in their writings and all things that they do. So at the end of it, what I want to where I want to come and dwell is the fact that we should be able to distinguish between the individual psychology when it comes to to philosophy, because you have people like, what is the name? I've forgotten. I read a lot of his work. I think he's a French philosopher. And you come also to people like, I think we mentioned him, we mentioned people like Lafitau, who also somehow his work set the foundation for, racism as we know today. And all these things have been done because even though rationally they appear to the individual as right, but then we have the problem that when what one feels as right is actually exposed or practiced out there, it becomes a problem, you see. And that is why, to me, I would say that I learned a lot of philosophy, but I've forgotten all of them. And one thing that I hold on to is the Ubuntu, which makes me to break that barrier between me, myself, and the other neighbor, so that the fact that I can reason to say that I alone, how I feel, what I want, which of course we are caught in that today. But then do we pause to say that, is it only how much I reason that matters, or there are other things which should be considered to make me to justify my action? Let me end here, please.
Thank you, Brother Benny. We'll go to Sister Marcia, then Brother Coco, in that order. And welcome Elder Sam and Sister Chisoma as well.
Thank you so much. Give thanks. You see, if we look at the last sentence, it says, but this account relates to the individual welfare and not the social. So I think we should look at what we want to do as an individual. The individual psychology is how you're thinking. My thinking, what I'm doing, is it going to give me pleasure or is it going to give me pain? You're looking at it on a Pan-African setting. Whatever we're doing, it should give us joy. And that joy gives us pleasure. But sometime along the way, it's going to be painful. People are going to turn against you. People are going to say you're too radical. So we should look at it, or that is what I'm thinking, on an individual basis, not on social basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Marcia. Brother Coco, please come in. Brother Coco, are you able to come in, Brother Coco? I can't hear you, but you are unmuted. Hope you are speaking.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Thank you. Greetings, brother. It's been long.
Yeah, sorry. I think it must be my headphones.
Okay,
so
welcome.
I removed them.
Welcome.
I am humbled to be in such in presence of such minds tonight, and thank you for this. And again, thanks to our ancestor, Osajifu, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. I think Brother Ben was looking for Ejito. Is it the cat? Ejito ergo sum, which we started with before, the philosopher, the French philosopher. So,
Yes.
yeah, so thank you. Let me pass that one a bit. Before I get into my own thinking, I would like to be allowed to read what my late king wrote about this, if I can find it quickly here. And give me a second, it should not take me long. I had it here, but somehow I seem to have misplaced it, but it doesn't take long. So this is what I put in the chat, if you remember, but Kwame asked me to explain what the king was saying. Here it says, African traditional culture was not attuned to individual competition, but to cooperation within the community. The interests of the community always being put above individual interests, while individual rights were protected by community ethics. The community could not share collective moral responsibility for the actions of the individual, and this in turn bound the individual to the religious and moral norms of the community. Indigenous culture was committed to social justice, social management, and the popular participation of all of its members. This produced a fundamental cultural ethic of mutual assistance and cooperation in the means of production. Equality within the community has always been central to the traditional African way of living. The notion of political competition had little or no place in traditional African society. He wrote this when he was talking about the political frameworks which the Africans find themselves using. Mostly the borrowed, plagiarized system of governance, which we call it democracy, which we are using in Africa. But it's not our own. I say it's not our own because we don't see any resemblance of us in that system. The reason I say that is we know we practiced a form of representative governance as Africans before that, and that was then exported to the Greeks. The Greeks then, of course, gave it over to the other Europeans and the Greco-Romans or whoever. Then they did whatever they did with that, and then send it back again to us. I won't go into details on that, but let's coming back to the passage tonight. What I am understanding from the passage is that he is challenging the individualistic nature of some of the philosophers which he quotes here. He doesn't quote them by name, but we know who they are. If you start to look at some of those philosophers, you see Jeremy Bentham, you see Stuart Mills, and Epicurus, I think, who will be the first one in Greek philosopher. But most of those emphasize the individualistic nature. It's about individualism all the way, all the way. But all that it's in contradiction with what we have been taught as Africans. It's in contradiction with what we know as Africans, where we put the social nature first, the social welfare. So the individual comes from the society in which they come from. You as the individual, you don't shape the society shapes you. But they emphasized a lot on the combinations of individual utilities and what the different pleasures that individuals derive from, they derive, and then the society has to allow them to do that, of course, but it has to happen within the confines of the society in which they are coming from. And this is where the difference is, and I think Brother Benny has alluded to, that is different in Europe to what we know as Africans. And we should never, ever forget that we have our own way of doing things, and it has always worked. And it's a question of, do we really see what they are doing? Do we really understand that there is a subtlety there? There's a subtle difference there. People like Stuart Mills, he is the one who actually protects what you call liberalism. liberalism, individual liberty now, because he has what we call the harm principle, which becomes central to the liberal political philosophy, which he is the one who said, it is better to be a human being dissatisfied than a pig satisfied. So he start to say there are some things which you do which are higher, which derive higher pleasure than other stuff. So he start to rank the pleasures. So he is also drawn to that element of pleasure, but it's still on individualism. So what I'm trying to say here is, let's not forget where we come from as Africans. We come from that community. And I like the words which Sister, our first queen contributed, that we hold high those things that hold us up high. It's what it is as Africans. We are because everyone else is. I cannot be, and then my neighbors are not. Then that way it doesn't work. It is where you just become individualistic in nature. So allow me to stop here. I hope I have sufficed in what I've presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Coco. Thank you for your contribution. We go to Sister Ida, then Brother Maudi.
Yeah, can I come in following Brother Coco's presentation? And of course, we're all sharing our thinking. So are you implying then, Brother Coco, that only Africans have in terms of ethic, have explained that the source of moral obligation is in society? Because I don't think that is what you are saying, but that is what it came across. So you mentioned the philosophers, and you are familiar with Rousseau, and Rousseau did make it clear that the source of moral obligation is within the group that decided to come together and form society. So I'm just asking. I hope that's not what you are implying.
All right. So allow me to respond. We are talking about moral obligation tonight, and I think what Osagyefo is doing is critiquing those philosophers who are trying to explain the source of morality in very narrow ways, which is what is just they're just talking about here, just about pleasure or pain. And I think it has to be clear that what I'm saying here is, even though there may be others, the Western way of thinking has been shaped a lot by some of those that I've mentioned, especially Stuart Mills, the utilitarian, as well as the liberal theory. But that doesn't mean there aren't others who have thought more or less how the Eastern philosophers or the African philosophers have thought, by putting the society at the center.
Okay. Yeah, because thank you for that clarification. Because the last sentence, as you rightly pointed out, is drawing our attention to the problem with locating the moral obligation in the individual. Because however you do so, that account relates only to the individual welfare and not the social. Now, for us as Africans, as you've rightly pointed out, Brother Coco, the issue for us is that the individual welfare must itself be a subset of social welfare. And so, yes. So thank you for that clarification. Brother
Thank
Pigeon,
you.
over to you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Thank you very much. Sister Ida, then Brother Mauli.
Hey. Sister Ida is I see the words, but do I know what I'm seeing? Because sorry?
He's thinking through the words.
No. I see the words. But even in thinking through them, I think, do I know what it's really saying? Because I think it boils down to, I think this passage boils down to morality and immorality. And if I've got that far, then I ask myself, I heard Sister Marcy about it relates to individual welfare and not society. And it does sound like that, but then we're told that with the regards why should be an impossible, I think it's telling us why should be an impossible thing to be asking that. But at the same time, because it doesn't say a lot of what is morality and what isn't morality, the individual is left in a way to make up their mind, I think. And in this passage, it says the pleasurable things should be moral and the unpleasurable things are immoral. Raised expectations of pain. Oh, so me, yes.
So
Can I find a different way to think?
Yeah, it's okay if I can help you there. So the reason
Please.
that why would the hope be impossible, it was that if you root moral obligation in individual psychology, how I feel in terms of whether I'm feeling pain or I'm feeling pleasure, then the question why is not necessary anymore. Why? Because it's about whether I feel pain or I feel pleasure. You see?
So whether I feel pain or whether I feel pleasure. So
so in other words, there's no reason asking someone why are you doing this, because it's so obvious that will give him pleasure, that one, the other one will give him pain, or her will give it, or her that will give her pleasure, the other one will give her pain. So why are you asking the person why? It's
yeah,
obvious.
but why does that make one moral and the other immoral? Because I personally ask that because I think that both of them, you're saying that pain is involved. So to me, it's I find the whole thing is slightly contradictory. Is what I was trying to explain at the beginning, because you think, oh, what bit of this can I take from it and think yes to, but more than yes, I ask no, why? So I really I think that I can't really I loved listening to everybody else because they could bring in so many things, but I personally can't bring out a lot of things.
That's what, then that's the point Nkrumah is driving at. And Brother Coco was spot on when he said Nkrumah is critiquing a particular type of ethics, which is the ethics that moral obligation is rooted in individual psychology. And as Brother Coco said, that is, so Nkrumah is critiquing that way of thinking. And Sister Kaneta also, then, if you remember, she broadened it and brought in African philosophers. So basically, if you're not taking anything out of these, you are on the right path. because
but it doesn't sound like he's really critiquing, because he's not his critique is so wide that to me it's like you could bring a horse and carts right through the whole thing. I don't
but that's what he's doing. He's saying that he's half philosophers, because if you go to the next paragraph, it then talks about another type of philosophers, those who rooted moral obligation in human reason. You see, so in this paragraph, we are looking at those who rooted moral obligation in the individual psychology of pain and pleasure. When we go to the next paragraph, it would be those who rooted it in human reason. You see, and so on. And then the question then is, where would we as Africans, not as Africans who have always been there, but as Africans today under new colonialism, where would we root our moral obligation? Because that is what is driving to eventually, because Pan-Africans have to act, don't they? They have to take decisions. You see.
Okay. Well, I wish he was a bit clearer, because then I would have felt that yes. But at the moment, but I thank you. That's
I
the
thank you
best I
too.
can do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sister. Don't worry, brother Kwame is around. Let's get
Thank you.
to Brother The King, then we'll come to Sister Chisomo, then I'll move to Elder Sam, and then Comrade Hanatu. We are still having 33 minutes to go. So, Brother The King?
Yeah, so greetings once again. So for me, when we talk about morality, I think pretty much everything has been covered by the previous speaker. So but I'm so cut off when it comes to what really furthers. I think Brother Koko was saying that it is the environment that shapes us. But I think as in as much as we are products of the environment, we also contribute to the shaping of the environment as well too, which so it's hand in hand, it works hand in hand. And I think this is what's formed a tradition within a particular area, which hence what becomes our what we hold high and what we do not hold high. So I think it works hand in hand.
Brother The King, you're done?
Yes, I'm done.
Oh, it's okay. I wasn't maybe that attentive, but it's okay. Let's go to Sister Chisomo. Sister Chisomo, then we'll go to Elder Sam. Is Sister Chisomo back? I think she was in. Okay. Okay, let me go to the Elder Sam. Elder Sam, then I'll come back to you, Sister Chisomo, as well. So Elder Sam come in, then Sister Chisomo prepare to go next.
Yes, good evening, everybody.
Greetings, Elder Sam. It's been a while. Hope you're good.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I joined late. I'm having a lot of activities busy here in South Africa. But yeah, my little understanding, and I think I've listened to few members making their inputs. You know, every time when I read these passages, I always put myself in the shoes of the author Kwame Nkrumah, and I am always seeing a person who's always trying to lift out certain fallacies, certain pitholes that are there in the revolution, and he tries to give us something that will guide us. And for me, in this element, you see, when the psychology says an individual will act according to his feelings or his reasoning or his religion, Nkrumah brings that out to us, and his aim is to say, look, these are fallacies, these are not absolutely correct, and these are things you must know about. And in this case, I'm seeing that he's lifting out that we should be aware of this individual feelings or individual reasoning or religious beliefs that can temper us. And as Brother Coco said, and Brother Kwame said, you know, today I was listening to the African conference during the day, and most of us deny that democracy is something that we already had before even everybody talked about democracy. But today I listen profoundly that no, we as Africans, we have had this. And that's why you will see in our approach to everything is that we are communal, we are together. And that philosophy that says we learn from each other. I am a person because I am with people who are around me. Those are the tenets that we Africans have, and they move above these individual feelings. You know, if I have to bring this out, even when there are laws that when you steal, you will be arrested, and this is the sentence, but people still continue stealing, and that is why in the African society We had everything catered for. We wanted people to have, no person must be seen to be poor. No person must sleep hungry. And those things were eliminating these elements of people not seeing communality, not seeing things that belong to each other, not seeing how we should share these elements. And for me, that is profoundly why Kwame Nkrumah is giving us these lessons. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Sam. And I'm happy to see you back, Elder Sam. Hope you're good, as you've said. Sister Chisomo, then we will get to, you have another sister. I hope it's a sister. Sister Chisomo first.
Hello, I've just walked in, so I joined
Okay.
late and I've been missing bits and pieces.
Okay.
I just heard a bit about Ubuntu, and my issue on Ubuntu is that we've lost it completely. And I think I agree with, was it General Nunaki who was speaking last? That we had it, but we've lost it because of people's motives, whether it's religion, politics, and whatnot. People disregard it in order to achieve what they need to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you. Sister Chisomo, or probably in the next few minutes, you might also get other people sharing their thoughts in the text, and maybe you might also interact with the text. If you wish to share your thoughts as well later, I'll allow you to do that. But yes, you are allowed to have some time as well, sister. Okay.
Brother Pigeon, can I ask
yes.
you? So Chisomo says she thinks. Is she saying she thinks we've lost it? Or she knows we've lost it? Because she's sharing her thinking. Which one?
Say that again.
Are you saying you think we've lost it? You think we've
Yeah,
lost
we've lost the Ubuntu, which then relates to morality. People do not disregard it in order to achieve what they need to achieve.
Okay.
Whether it's through corruption or it's through whatever. I see that people no longer regard their surroundings, the people surrounding them, the reason why they were appointed to look after these people, but they completely ignore them in order to achieve what they need to achieve.
Oh, you are referring to the leadership. Is that correct? The African
leadership or normal people. If I'm transacting with you, you forget the we are because whatever. You start looking at yourself. You'd even disregard why I've approached you, that I need this, because at the end of the day, you're thinking, what's in it for me? She's going to succeed. She's going to become an MP if she does that. Do you see what I mean? So we keep chopping each other from coming together, from doing things together, the way things are supposed to be. Culturally, that's how it's supposed to be. That's how we are as African people. But we're choosing to take this path that just dumps everything. And then we go into confusion. Mental health starts because you're now isolating yourself. You're doing things by yourself. You're not getting any support. You can't discuss your initiative with somebody because you're scared they're going to sabotage it. They're not going to support you. So everybody's now in their little corner.
Okay.
And
so Sister Chisomo, you're saying that the paragraph we've just read does apply.
I wasn't here when it was read. I'm just listening to people's comments.
Yeah, so it's what you've just said, that we've rooted moral obligation in our individual psychologies, what I can get, and not caring about others, what Ubuntu expects of us. So that is what you're saying. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sister Chisomo, and welcome, Dr. Dose. Brother Dose, feel most welcome. I know you've come late, but thank you. Feel most welcome. We get to Hanato Green, then I think Sister Kamo is back. So let's go to Hanato Green, then Sister Kamo, you can come in after Hanato. Hanato Green.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon or evening, everyone. I am in the middle of the afternoon taking a quick break. I thank you
greetings,
all. And
Sister.
Yeah,
Sister,
thank you.
greetings and permit me to recognize your presence. Thank you for joining. It's been a while.
Absolutely. Um, sister, sister that just spoke, I'm so sorry. I didn't catch your name, but absolutely, that's been my problem. Ubuntu is gone totally. And yes, they broke us up in the most important spiritual ways that we lived and democratized ourselves. The democracy we have now all over Africa and the world is totally un-African, totally inhuman, and absolutely wrong for us as a people. And unless we address these things, we're never going to get anywhere. And pardon me to say this, I am on a mission to make sure that no African woman on the face of the earth has to wear a weave, a wig, fake lashes, all these things, because we carry the mitochondrial DNA of the earth and we've been deceived out of it.
Thank
So
you.
I thank you. So I am hoping and praying, after having lived in this United States of America for over 4 to 5 years, I'm headed back home in the next few months. And I look forward to joining and seeing everyone in person somewhere on the continent where we can go village to village. And I don't care how many days I have to walk to go and stop the nonsense and connect. We do a lot of talking, nothing wrong with it, but we must be in the villages. If we remember how Lumumba was captured and killed, he was trying hard to connect to the people in the villages. And that's where it all began. Thank you.
Yeah, Sister Hanatu, I think you should do a presentation on a Saturday because you are in something that requires us to
Beautiful.
and
That
to
was
come up with
beautiful.
a policy position. So I think, Brother Pigeon, I think we have to take this up for a Saturday. Now, and the reason I'm laughing also is that Sister Hanatu has invoked the Du Bois-Garvey debate. I don't know if whether you remember.
Yes.
That fight was over the use of skin things, hair things, and it was brutal between Garvey and Du Bois. Sometimes we forget these big debates that took place and how Garvey was insulted. They say he was black and ugly, and he also fought back. You are this. That fight was ruthless. It's Hanati's in book. I think we need a Saturday for this. Anyway,
thank you.
But real quick, we know better. We know better though, because they were under a lot more of the evil that the West inflicted upon them.
Correct.
So they were all struggling too during their times. And so I do not hold it back at all. I've read most of the books recommended and done. So I just always say we must be careful when we mention examples of how our forefathers, ancestors kind of handled each other. We want to really see the conditions under which they were in. We know better now. So we have to make those corrections and move forward. Thank you. And I must leave. My break time is over.
I am agreeing with you. I'm saying that let's have a Saturday session where we discuss the unification of Africa.
Okay.
And certainly the issues you've raised are something we need to discuss. Yes, I am agreeing with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Sister Hanatu. I'll get in touch so that we can organize our own convenient time for you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're making me put my hand up because I think that I'm hearing a bit of sexism coming up from the male members.
Hold on, Sister Ida, hold on.
Don't worry,
Sister Hanatu is a woman as far as I know. Sister Brother Pigeon, what I think Sister Hanatu is also drawing attention to is the, if you like, the practical side of what we discuss. So Sister Hanatu, what we would like to hear, if you like, today is the philosophical underpinning of what you are raising. Because on Thursdays we discuss the philosophy or the philosophical arguments, the philosophical and ideological arguments, for example, for saying that Africans shouldn't wear this type of hair or should wear that type of hair, based on what we are reading, which is a moral obligation. So what is the moral obligation of African women in terms of what they put on their head. Am I making sense, Sanatu?
Oh, absolutely. But see, it's not morality. This has nothing to do with morality. It's just the way that we've been socialized to not love who we are. Remember what Malcolm X said? Who taught you to hate yourself? Your hair, your nose, your da. So I just want us to be, philosophy is a moral philosophy. All these things are there, but we have to have the knowledge of the subliminal manipulations under which we now find ourselves so attached to. That's what it is. You see? If
But
we
Sanatu, but you would also,
yes,
Sanatu,
please.
Sanatu,
Yes, please.
sorry,
Yes, sir.
you will
That's
agree.
okay.
You will agree that if Africans have been conditioned to behave in a particular way, that in itself is a moral conditioning. You see, someone is teaching them to behave in a particular way.
Oh yeah.
And so it comes back to ethics again, and whether the ethics that we have been taught is an ethics that we should either abandon or continue.
Oh, definitely abandon. Anything that is good is not good for us. But that is the reason that we agree with their system of democracy, because we think if we look like them, if we do everything like them, we're going to be happy. Ubuntu is out the door.
No, we don't agree with their democracy.
Okay.
You see?
Okay.
Brother Kwame,
can I go to Sister? Sister?
Yes.
I want to come to you, and then I have one comrade who hasn't spoken after you, which is Sister Kamo. Please go ahead.
Okay, but you know what? I'm really sort of, half the time it is African women who drive the beauty parade forward, whether it's to do with hair, whether it's to do with eyelashes, whether it's to do with whatever. So I think we need to be careful. I really do think we need to be careful with the topic where we're going to be dissing our sisters. So, Sister Anatia, I give you due warning.
Sister Ida?
No. Stepping in that direction, I will.
Sister Ida.
Yes.
You are invited for a Saturday conversation where Sister Hanatu be talking about this. So you're invited.
No, I know I'm invited, but I think that we're stepping on women's toes, which I don't think is right.
So let's focus on
you know what?
philosophy.
Real quickly, I'm sorry, I have to say this, Sister Ida. There is beauty in the African woman in her own way, but not when we have to buy everything from somewhere else. The fake eyelashes, come on. Is that beauty? The fake nails, the fake everything that we wear.
That might be my opinion, but to some women it is, it's something they want to do. But it may not be what we want.
But it's
to
wrong.
How can it be wrong?
I'm not afraid
this is the morality of this is the thing about morality, if it gives somebody pleasure.
Please, sisters.
Thank you.
Please, sisters, I request that we are going to have this session. And I can feel,
Brother Pigeon, you're just being deliberately
no, Sister Ida.
You and Brother Kwame are really going to step on a lot of toes.
No, Sister Ida. Sister Ida, this is a topic of morality, whether on individual or a social angle, and we'll have that conversation sometimes later.
Talking about morality of women, sorry, you shouldn't even be going there.
No, it's not about Sister Ida, it's not about women. So let me take Sister Kamo.
Should you be going there?
But Sister Ida, it was Sister Hanat who raised the matter, not me.
But that doesn't mean that, yes, but it was you two who jumped on, we must have a topic about, women's inability to think for themselves.
Sister Kamo, Sister Kamo, please come in. Please, sister. And I hope you're not going to follow the same direction. Please stick to the text so that we can come to an end of this conversation. Sister Kamo.
Sure.
Sister Kamo, please.
So, first of all, I appreciate the comments from our sisters. I had to go to another meeting, and I had left when Queen Carnita was speaking, which I very much appreciate and could relate to what a lot of what she was saying. Because I'm new and I'm just now being introduced basically to this writing from Nkrumah, I'm going to pass so that I can just gather enough information to not be so, right now I feel a little bit disjointed. I have thoughts and opinions, but I think for my own self and then for the sake of you all understanding me, just give me another week or two to get it together, and then I'll make some comments. I will continue with the study groups.
Thank you.
Medasi. Thank you.
Thank you. Medase. It's called Medase. Thank you.
Medasi.
I believe so.
Thank you.
Dr. Dose, I know you arrive late. You are the last person remaining, then I'll be myself and Brother Kwame. Dr. Dose, do you have anything to say at this particular moment? I know you arrive a bit late. Dr. Dose?
Yes, hello. Good evening to all. Quite interesting. I joined the conversation quite late, but I think dear ladies have made marvelous contributions, and I wouldn't have to. I wouldn't have anything much to add up to. But I think we seriously we are losing our Ubuntu mindset with regards to the way we tend to tune much more to the European lifestyle, and I mean they dictate to us whatever we do. We are even trying to ignore our beautiful cultures, our lifestyles, and acquiring the European and the Americans lifestyle. I mean, regards to most of the things we do, right from daily activities. I mean, from to education. I mean, before then we had our own way of doing things. We had our own way of calculation. We have our own way of. I mean, in terms of our culture is so unique that, to the extent that the Europeans envied ours. They took it and rebranded it in a way, and some of the culture, some of the what do you call their lifestyle were ours. They took it, rebranded it, and brought it back to us, and we accepted it as if it was something. It's European lifestyle. I mean, there are quite a number of examples. None comes to mind now, but we are losing touch. As a matter of fact, we are losing touch. But maybe just a matter of time. Our ladies here come. I mean, one or few of them can raise some of these issues up, and we can hook up to them, and we move it with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So Windhoek has just joined us now, so I'll also give him time, but we are having actually exactly 10 minutes to go. But I request at this particular moment to share my little thoughts on this, and I'll hand it over to you as we move towards the end.
Yeah, you carry on. Thank you.
Now, my few things, I'll first of all answer the question is, what is moral? And not in terms of what is the definition, but what encompasses that definition. From where do the definition originates to? Is it from my individual understanding of what I think is right? And I think is what you will say, I think, therefore I am, that thinking, or whether what is moral is informed by our social environment, which is our society. Before we go to what is now our obligation to that, what is moral? And I think there are two thoughts that are playing here. One, the thought that advocate for individualism. Nothing is where it comes to the liberty and freedom to think of what you want. But the other side that comes from the communal or societal element, and I'm reminded about the topic of this chapter is actually society and the ideology and society and ideology. So the biggest thing I want to focus on is the source of what is moral. And to me, I believe from our African perspective, that source is from our society, not from what I think is moral. Then now the obligation is also not individual, but rather communal or societal obligation. Now that actually negates, and I think that's what Nkrumah, as you've said, some have said, Nkrumah is trying not to critically criticize these people who take it on an individual basis. The element that an individual has a right to think do not make that individual thinking right in a society. The individual must consider first what is right for the society. And I think the society is a collective of individuals. So it doesn't mean that the individual exists outside the society, but there's a bigger entity that then determines what we need to do as a people. And I think that also goes to what Brother Komi, you are trying to discuss, Sister Ida, that if it is individual, then why do you ask them why? Because it's from the individual thinking. So they can say, I want to eat, and I think I want to eat this. So why will you ask them why? But if it is from community, then you have a basis on why do the community came up with this. So then the question of why can be relevant on the practices on how the society or the community came up with that. Now, my other element is on the look at it, the things that are being put here, what is pleasant and what is painful. And it's for the greater goal, if you move this to a societal level, what is pleasant and what is painful might not be at the same rate of what is pleasant and painful at an individual level. That's why we say that the society or the community then brings our all elements together and then compromise and come up with what is good for all of us, not what is good for myself. Then lastly, as you said again, of course, then we are not driven by what is individual pressure or individual pain, but we're driven by considering what is the societal pressure, the societal pain. We are pushing for a common goal of a society, not an individual specific goals. And I think this is what Nkrumah is trying to encourage us. And this is what some of us I'm hearing say that you have lost. And I believe you have lost it, because if you see some of the acts going on in continent today, and how people kill each other, and how people plant everything else, and how people want to make other people poor to get them all the gold or the millions they want, and how people want to loot even money for a hospital or anything else, we move out from what is the moral for us. So our morality is then what is good for me, not what's good for the society. Because if what's good for the society, then you'll not steal from the society the medicine is supposed to go for the society. You'll not loot everything from the society so that you can live a richer life. So that's what I can say for now. Back to you, Brother Connie.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Pigeon, for sharing your thinking. Because when you chair, sometimes it's hard to share your thinking. I think we've heard from everyone. Is that correct? Except Brother Windhoek, who arrived not too long ago. Sir Windhoek, you're not usually late. Just wondering why you were late today. I'm not asking you to tell us why or why not. I'm just observing it because I'm late myself sometimes, especially Thursdays, because I have to join from school, leave school, get on a train, and so on. But anyway, welcome anyway. Would you like to share a few words, Brother Sir Windhoek?
Yeah, greetings, everybody.
Greetings. Yeah, share some thinking, brother.
I think I didn't want to be marked absent. That's all I can say.
Congratulations for being here.
Is that all you're going to say, Brother Windhoek? Okay. Brother Pigeon, did Brother Mavuli or Sister, is this Sister or Brother Mavuli speak?
Yeah, Brother Mavuli had shared his thought. Remember the King Mauli from
okay,
Ghana.
That's Mauli. Okay. I'm reading Mavuli, so I'm confused. I thought it was Mauli, meaning God exists, rather than Mavuli.
No, I'm the one who renamed him and probably used my Kenyan thinking.
Okay, you misspelled his name. It's Mauli, it's W instead of V.
Okay, that's not
right. Okay. All right. So it's 4 minutes to 9, and we'll finish at 9 exactly. I have myself contributed as we've gone along, and so I don't want to add more than I have. I only draw your attention to the fact that yes, Nkrumah is telling us that clearly, basing your moral obligation on your individual pleasure and pain is not a good way to run a society, because that approach only applies to the individual welfare and not the social. And the African situation requires a social response, because already we have individuals who are acting only in terms or only as it relates to your individual welfare, which are mostly those in power, the presidents and the kings and queens across Africa who hold political power. They don't really care about the people. So that way of acting is not really helping us. And I think Sachizomo and others have made a point. Mr. Hanatu has also raised a point in terms of how women conduct themselves, although some don't agree with how it's said, but she has a point, and so on and so forth. So so we then need to move on. If we are agreed that that is not a way to act, then, and the social is the way to act, then we'll move on to the next paragraph next week and see whether human reasoning is a good way to anchor the moral actions of Africa today. So thank you very much. Brother Pigeon, yeah, share the announcement so that we can move on.
Yeah, comrades.
And close the meeting at night. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, comrades. Permit me first of all to thank you all. Sometimes it's been very interesting conversations, and the fact that it's been so interesting for the last 3 days means that we learned 3 years actually that have been part of this virtually. It means that every day we learn a lot. And previously, I never knew that a paragraph could make a lot of sense rather than a whole page or a whole chapter. But through this, we've been able to build critical thinking that I think is very helpful at a personal level. So permit me to thank you all for your time and your, of course, spending your data and everything else you've spent to be here, because actually you spent your money, whatever level it is for you to be with us here. So thank you very much. And we continue to invite you to continue joining our sessions when you can. If you're not able, I always share the recordings. They're available. And I think I'll request you to be a subscriber for our YouTube channel so that you get updates of our uploads for all these sessions. You can actually review them anytime if you miss. We also request you, because I've seen somebody was referred by somebody and somebody was referred by somebody. So we're building a community. I request you please to also refer another friend so that we come together and learn. That was the beauty of our African society. We move together and go and sit somewhere and learn. So please invite more members of your friends or your circle to join us. This Saturday, actually, we've been having a hot conversation. We never knew it could take even 2 sessions, but it's now moving to the 3rd session, and we wish to dispense it once on indigenous African knowledge system. And I think this Saturday we are looking too much on the comparative of, there's a name for Ghana or that system, indigenous traditional system with vis-a-vis artificial intelligence. Is it called Bosuma or Bos something? So we are looking for one of our comrade Nana Yao. Bosum. Yeah, we are looking for our comrade Nana Yao to do for us probably the last part of that indigenous African knowledge system this coming Saturday, same time, Ghana time, 6 p.m. So please, if you have time, please join us. And next Thursday, we pick it from what Brother Kama said. We are moving to human reason. So please also join us on that particular time. With that, permit me to thank you all. If we have a library, join us in our library. I will still be sharing more of the updates in the morning for you and other relevant meetings for yourself. Thank you very much for this particular time, and may we have a lovely evening to all of you. See you again on Saturday on Thursday.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Have a good one, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Brother Pigeon,
Bye-bye.
don't forget to get Sister Hanatu's contact, yeah?
Oh, okay.
I'll
call him. Thank you.
She has my contact. I have her contact as well for so many years. So she'll get in touch.
Excellent. That's good.
Thank you.